Our main man, Hiraku Machio, pops open his eyes in shock because, for the first time in forever, he actually dreamt something. But hey, no time to dwell on dreams when you've got a day to start. In his massive pad, his maid, who rocks a tiny horn on her face, apologizes for the breakfast delay. Hiraku chills her out, saying he's up earlier than usual anyway, and awkwardly asks her to drop the master title since it weirds him out. Later on, as Hiraku's strolling around the house, a kitchen commotion grabs his attention. In the kitchen, he finds his maid about to blast a slimy little monster they found in a vase with her fire powers, apologies included. Outside, Hiraku bumps into a couple of friends who, seeing his worried face, quiz him about his day. He starts spilling about his dream, insisting it felt more like past memories than a dream, but before he can get deep, some kids playing nearby cut him off. Hiraku then zones out, soaking in the life around him, magical races, country vibes, kids playing, and fields of crops. He joyfully notes that his past self could have never pictured such a cozy life. Flashback time. Before landing in this snug spot, Hiraku had a heart-to-heart with the world's god, a faceless golden-winged entity. The god drops the bomb that Hiraku, at 39, has kicked the bucket after a life of betrayal and illness, ending his days in a hospital room. After seeing Hiraku's struggles, the god offers him a reboot in life with a healthy, disease-free body, partly because the god feels guilty for the mishaps due to a divine blunder. With little clue about what's going on, Hiraku takes the deal, asking for a life where he can chill with some farming, far from civilization. The god, taken aback by the request, says farming's out of his department but makes the call. Boom! Hiraku's wish is granted, along with the almighty farming tool power, and off he goes to his new life. Cut back to Hiraku waking up in a forest, in a new, healthy body, ready to move after years bedridden. His first mission? Figure out this new reality. He notices his peasant getup, his solitude in the forest, and his young, strong body, a far cry from his previous life's frailty. Clueless on how to start, he remembers his almighty farming tool power, and a gardening home magically appears in his hand. Realizing its magical oomph, he finds he can work tirelessly with it. But plans to farm are put on hold as he realizes he needs water and food to survive, leading him to explore the forest. The exploration's a bust, no edible herbs, and spooky noises and shadows freak him out, fearing a monster encounter. Picking up the pace, he spots a giant tree visible from almost anywhere in the forest and decides it's the perfect landmark for his base. After wandering fruitlessly for a river, he opts to dig his own well. With a familiar technique, he finds the perfect spot, and poof, his power conjures a shovel, proving he can summon any necessary tool for the job, as long as it's not too big. After a digging marathon, Hiraku strikes water, securing his survival source. Food, however, proves elusive, but he's oddly not hungry, thanks, he guesses, to his farming tool power. Later, he easily has a tree, surprised by his power's strength, and uses the wood to start his cabin. As the sun sets, he takes refuge under the tree, sparking a fire with a magnifying glass for light and protection. At night, he notices the world has 2 moons, confirming he's in a whole new world. Gradually, with his skills and power, he starts clearing the land and making his kitchen tools. Then, a freaky rabbit charges him, but Hiraku quickly reacts, taking it down with his scythe's handle. Feeling guilty but with no choice, he cooks up his first meal in this world. Later, after plowing a large area, he ponders how to start his garden without seeds. To his amazement, sprouts appear the next day, leaving him wondering if it's his power or if plants here grow without seeds. Deciding not to overthink it, Hiraku sets to protect his crops from rabbits and any other monsters. After days, he realizes the rabbits are specifically targeting him, which doesn't bother him since they've become his main food source. Soon, he builds a small cabin for shelter, tending to his crops, hoping they're edible. Just when peace sets in, he meets 2 large dogs watching him, no aggression in sight. He lets them into his fort, feeds them because they look hurt, but then one starts labor. He leaves them safe and sleeps, waking to find the puppies born, and the dog family choosing to stay. Days later, Hiraku harvests his crops, thankfully edible and diverse, while the dogs guard the place and bring home meat. The god who hit the reset button on our main dude Hiraku's life spills that he kinda broke the rules by meddling after someone's life had already kicked off. Still, racked with guilt over handing Hiraku a rough deal the first time around, he couldn't help but intervene. However, this mistake-prone deity realizes, days after their chat, that he's dropped Hiraku into a monster-infested nightmare, the so-called Forest of Death. Panic ensues as he's sent the lad there without a heads-up about the danger, armed with nothing but dreams of farming. Trying to step in again, the god hits a bureaucratic wall. He's overstepped too many lines already. Now, his only hope is that Hiraku kicks the bucket soon and comes back for an apology, again. Meanwhile, our protagonist is over the moon with his thriving garden, learning from the little oopsies along the way. Discovering his almighty farming tool power lets him conjure up any crop by thinking hard about it while plowing. He tests his theory with soybeans and, voila, spots soy sprouts the next day. Acknowledging his agricultural success is divine gift-wrapped, Hiraku crafts some god statues as a thank you. Amidst new planting adventures and doggo playtime, he appreciates their company, warding off the solo blues. But petting one, he notices it's sporting a unicorn horn. Weirded out yet reassured by the otherworld excuse, he shrugs it off as probably normal here. With the dog's help, Hiraku stumbles upon new water and food sources, devising farming and irrigation strategies that make life easier and his farming dreams more civilized. He starts building roads, diversifying crops to include oils and flowers, morphing his rural dream into something more refined. As the weather cools, Hiraku, stuck in his otherworldly outfit, ditches the rabbit fur idea due to its stench and opts for fire warmth. That's until one of the dogs introduces him to a giant spider that weaves a soft fabric scarf in a blink. Trading potatoes for fabric, Hiraku upgrades his cabin with clothes, sheets, pillows, and curtains, cozying up just in time for winter. Feeling the pangs of loneliness despite animal company, he misses human conversation and salt from his old life. Post-winter, the dogs and spider, now with families of their own, bring new mouths to feed. While expanding food production, a spider alarm signals danger, and a dog leads Hiraku to a scantily clad, crying girl in the woods. Approaching to help, she bites him, transforming into a clothed adult. A dog smack later, she's a kid again. Chatting, she explains the bite was to regain strength after using too much energy, unable to maintain her form. Impressed by Hiraku's farm, the girl, vampire Lulilisi, praises his work. At night, she writes down her new learnings on a magical tablet, a normal sight for Hiraku in this magic-filled world. Lu reveals she's on the run from nobles after her medicinal plant research, hiding in the dangerous forest. Hiraku, oblivious to the peril, sees his pets as friends, not threats, and his farming magic as ordinary. Interrupting her tale, Hiraku asks Lu to stay with him, overlooking her vampire status and his loneliness. Misinterpreting his invite as a romantic proposal, they awkwardly agree to live as a couple. The next day, Lu suggests growing medicinal herbs, to which Hiraku happily agrees. In the post-credits, a girl investigates the Forest of Death, hinting at more adventures to come. Hiraku's stoked about Lu's company, not just for the chit-chat, but because she's been a real game changer, conjuring up light with magic and snagging the salt our guy's been craving. As the duo basks in their serene life, dreaming up future tea quests, the spider sets off the bell again, hinting at odd goings-on. This ruffles Hiraku, who's not used to peacebreakers. Rushing to the forest, they bump into the blonde chick from the last episode's teaser. Deja vu strikes as they find her tangled in the same tree, post-dog attack. Once freed, she magics herself back to decency. Lu's about to bounce when the girl starts hollering, recognizing Lu and scolding her to stop running and just get caught. The wolves pounce on the blonde, but Hiraku calls them off. Back at the cabin, the trio chit-chats, and the winged blonde quizzes Lu on her hideout choice. After learning Lu's wolf-dodging backstory, she blushes, declaring Hiraku her hubby. The blonde, named Tia, an angel warrior, apparently more brawn than brains, per Lu, shrugs off their bickering to ask why she's chasing Lu. Tia spills there's a bounty on the vamp for causing city chaos. Lu argues it was self-defense against a noble forcing her to make drugs. Tia counters, calling Lu a hothead who blasts her way out of dislikes. Post-argument, Lu admits maybe she overdid it with the noble, actually fleeing Tia's superior strength. Tia's shocked by Lu's error admission, marking a new friendship phase. Lu then invites Tia to join their tiny village. To win her over, Lu tours her around the crops, hinting at their communal efforts. Surprised by Hiraku's pitch for her to stay, Tia, reluctant to dirt her hands, ends up helping with the harvest and loving the fresh veggie taste. The day ends with them bonding over farm work. As night falls, Tia's sold on the fun of farming and the taste of their crops. Lu kinda strong-arms her into staying, citing workload. Tia, seeing the point, embraces her new agrarian life, enhancing farming with her magic but acknowledging their limited expansion energy. While discussing this, more dog pups arrive, enlarging their family. They decide to expand the dog's living space, building a new cabin by the garden. Tia then zooms off, returning with a squad of elf ladies opting to settle in Hiraku's village, fleeing a tragic past and a razed northern village. Without a new home, their race faces extinction. Moved by their story and their promise of hard work, Hiraku welcomes them. The village, now cramped, unites to build the elves a grand wooden cabin, showcasing their construction prowess. Hiraku, envious but inspired, plans to rebuild his own cabin using their techniques. The elves prove to be industrious, fitting in well. Hiraku learns elves aren't just about fire avoidance and vegetarianism, breaking his preconceptions. In gratitude, the elves offer mining and blacksmithing services, upgrading the village with an iron smelting furnace and a hefty forge. The village evolves, wooden utensils swap for iron cookware. Upon discovering a wheat field, they dive into bread making, transforming their daily diet. Questioning land ownership, Lu suggests the land's likely unclaimed, but the forest falls under the Demon King's realm. Hiraku panics, but Lu reassures him if he built the village solo, the land's his. At night, the ladies admire Hiraku's building and farming skills but note his world knowledge gaps, highlighting his innocence in this vast new world. Hiraku is about to dive into farming when the spider interrupts, showing off a captured giant queen bee. Wondering what to do with it, the spider pitches keeping it as a pet. Hiraku finds the idea sketchy but ends up bonding with the queen bee. He even builds a room for the bees to safely set up their hive, and within 10 days, they've got it going. Planning to boost honey production, Hiraku decides to plant flowers near the hive. Later, Hiraku sets his sights on building a dam to create a village nearby lake, tapping a distant river. Busy as ever, progress is slow until an elf lends a hand. Together, they figure that compacted stone bricks, made with the almighty farming tool, are the way to go for the aqueduct. Mass production kicks off, and with the elves' muscle and hustle, the aqueduct's quickly done. This new setup not only makes water access a breeze but also lures fish to the village, reducing their rabbit hunting needs. However, a giant fish attacks Hiraku, who swiftly deals with it. Cooking it up, the ladies worry about eating something from the death forest, but Hiraku, finding it salmon-like, reassures them with a taste test. They're all hooked, making fishing a new daily gig. Noticing rice plants growing near the new construction, Hiraku embarks on rice farming, solo at first due to his know-how, but eventually enlists the ladies' help. Sharing his farming knowledge, gleaned from past live TV shows, impresses them with his endless wisdom. After going through the entire rice farming cycle, Hiraku whips up rice balls. The ladies find the effort daunting but are blown away by the taste. Seeing everyone magically clean themselves, Hiraku misses hot baths. He gets crafty, constructing a communal bathhouse complete with various zones. The wastewater issue worries him until Tia suggests using slimes, which eat waste. Misled by adventure's tales, Hiraku fears slimes are dangerous, but Tia corrects him, swiftly gathering a bunch to handle sewage naturally. Next, Hiraka chops wood for bath water heating but discovers some logs have mushrooms. Unsure which are edible, he plants all kinds to experiment. Teaching the ladies proper bathing, Hiraka finally relaxes in a bath, reminiscing on long-missed comforts. His mushroom farming experiment pays off, leading to plans for a mushroom stew. But first, dogs introduce 5 more elf ladies wanting to join the village. Welcoming them, the elves plan not just their home but also village expansion, buoyed by thoughts of boosting their population. Kuro, the dog, reflects on his life shift from forest hunting to family life after meeting a mate. A bear encounter left them injured until Hiraka saved them. Surprised by Hiraku's survival skills, Kuro and his family grew fond of him despite being fearsome hellhounds themselves, grateful for their fated meeting with Hiraku. Hiraku's shiny new house is finally finished. The girls lead him on a tour, poking around every nook, including his bedroom. During the exploration, Hiraku stumbles upon a locked room. Curiosity piqued, he unlocks it to find a double bed, quickly shuts it, and pretends he saw nothing. The next day, Hiraka dives into the kitchen to whip up something new, curry. He invites one of the girls to scope out his crop area, where they stumble upon exotic plants. He shares that some don't grow in snowy climates, but with a special tool, he can cultivate them here. Harvesting spices like cumin, turmeric, and cilantro, Hiraka highlights each spice's role, noting turmeric colors the curry, and cilantro seeds must be ground. They also gather cilantro leaves, which seem to repel the dogs. The girls plan to study this plant later. Black pepper and cayenne peppers join their spice haul. As Hiraka starts cooking, only Leah remains, with Rue and Tia busy crafting a protective talisman. Heating rapeseed oil, he adds rabbit meat, grinding all spices except cumin. After browning the meat, he sets it aside, then cooks cumin in the meat's juices, adding onions, ginger, and garlic, followed by tomatoes. Once a paste forms, he mixes in spices and salt, then reintroduces the meat and boiled soybeans. Mid-cook, Hiraka realizes he forgot naan. He explains naan's preparation is similar to bread until the resting phase when it's rolled out. The girls return as he finishes cooking, and everyone sits down to feast. They explain how to pair naan with curry, and the girls, delighted, go for seconds, leaving Hiraka hoping there's some left for him. Rue and Tia offer curry to the dogs, who sniff it and bolt. With winter coming, Hiraka gathers firewood and requests extra blankets from Zabuton for hibernation. Anticipating the dogs' hunting challenges, he preserves meat by smoking and drying. He also devises a 2-tiered box to store vegetables, insulated with a blanket and snow on top, while melting snow water collects below to keep them dry. Wishing for the girls' magic skills, Hiraka's grateful for their help, sticking to gardening and cooking. Winter brings more indoor time, filled with board games like Reversi, chess, and mahjong. Teaching Reversi's rules sparks a playful showdown between Rue and Tia. Kuro unexpectedly offers chess advice, with other dogs joining in. Hiraka wisely decides never to challenge the dogs to a game. Rue plays with the dogs and, despite losing, doesn't flip the table out of respect for Kuro. Hiraka then faces Kuro, Tia, and Leah in a challenging game of mahjong, surprised at Kuro's quick grasp of the rules but ends up losing badly, with Kuro as the victor. Downhearted, he switches to mini bowling, naming pins after villains. They play daily, and winter flies by until spring arrives. One morning, Zabuton alerts them to a large object approaching from the sky. Hiraka fears a dragon, but Tia corrects him, it's a wyvern. So, Hiraku's squad is chillin' when suddenly, a fire-breathing wyvern decides to crash the party. But Rue and Tia ain't having any of it and whip out some magic to shield the squad. The fire's getting all up in the crops, but the elves are on it like white on rice, getting things under control. Hiraku's scratching his head, wondering how to take down this fiery pest. Out of nowhere, he summons this beast of a tool that morphs into a spear. He chucks it at the wyvern, which tries to pull a fast one with a triple-layer barrier, but no dice, the spear goes right through, clipping its wing. Not one to leave things half done, Hiraka gives it another toss, straight through its heart. Bye-bye, wyvern. Hiraka's puzzled. Are wyverns like the neighborhood cats around here? Rue chimes in, saying wyverns are rare beasts, making Hiraka wonder if this was someone's idea of a sick joke. Tia's like, even if it was, wyverns are too precious to just throw away. Hiraka figures they just hit the jackpot. Then, the real question, can we eat it? Turns out, wyvern meat is top-tier gourmet stuff. Fast forward, and Hiraka's serving up wyvern dishes that have the girls asking for seconds. Rue's curious if Tia could have stopped Hiraka's spear. Tia, considering the wyvern got schooled, doubts she could have. Rue thinks they lucked out meeting the dogs before Hiraku. Cut to the demon realm of Gelgardo, where the big shot generals are freaking out over a wyvern getting taken down. Randon's in disbelief, knowing that a wyvern in their turf means all hands on deck. Beazle breaks it to him that the wyvern got KO'd from the ground in 2 hits. Randon's sweating bullets, thinking they're no match for whoever pulled this off. Beazle's trying to keep morale up, saying they're the top dogs and need to handle this before panic spreads. Randon's ready to throw in the towel, but Beazle's not having any of it. Meanwhile, at the Dragon Refuge, Blue Dragon Dorame's chatting with Gucci about the fight. Dorame's all, would that spear have taken me out? Gucci bets it would've. Dorame's pondering their next move, and Gucci's like, attacking would be dumb. Back to Hiraku, who's enjoying the wyvern feast but feels something's missing, booze. He sets his mind on making wine. The girls are all in, and soon they're stomping grapes, singing songs, and filling barrels. Hiraku's wondering if they made too much wine, but the girls assure him it'll be gone in no time. Meanwhile, some god's watching over Hiraku, pondering if this makes up for past mistakes. The agriculture goddess is not impressed, especially after finding out Hiraku got handed a sacred spear replica. The god's like, it's just a farming tool, but the goddess ain't buying it, mad about her statue looking old and punishing the god with a timeout. Zabuton signals Hiraku, and they find another girl, Flora, Rue's sister. After some introductions, Flora's taken aback by Hiraku being Rue's hubby. Learning about Hiraku's badassery, she quickly apologizes. Turns out, Kuro's not just any dog but a hellish wolf with a fiery breath. Hiraku cooks up a storm for Flora, who's all in on learning about fermentation. Excited about microbes, she heads off, only to return with a crew to settle down, including 2 cows, which means dairy delights are on the horizon. Tia feels a bit left out, flies off, but returns with reinforcements, angels, lizardmen, and a chicken. With the new arrivals, chores are a breeze. Hiraku becomes the local cooking guru, fascinating the ogres. Tia's angels get security duty, lizardmen handle the heavy lifting, and soon, the place is bustling. Leah brings more elves, but only females, planning to expand the community. Gathering everyone, Hiraku ponders a name for their home. Rue suggests naming it after Hiraku, but that's a no-go. Anne's idea leads to discovering the forest's ominous name, prompting Zabuton to suggest looking outside. Inspired by a majestic tree, Hiraku names it Taiju Village and plans a celebration. Despite Hiraku's reservations about being mayor, the consensus is clear. The village celebrates their new name in unity, toasting with their first batch of wine. Hiraku is officially the big cheese of Taiju Village now, but it's business as usual in the day-to-day. Cue dramatic entrance, a messenger from the demon realm pops up. Beazle's on a mission to chat with the head honcho of the village, and Hiraku steps up. Beazle hands over a prezi, hinting that the demon lord's keen on a powwow about the village's status. Hiraku's mind races. Could this be about taxes or a big fat eviction notice? Playing it cool, Hiraku offers up a slice of their harvest as a peace offering, suggesting a humble 10%. Wondering if he's lowballed it, Hiraku's relieved when Beazle's all in. They shake on it, making it official. The village will fork over 10% of their crops, but keeps the rights to their dairy, eggs, honey, and booze. If the demon realm's craving any of those, it's trade time. Hiraku's feeling like a negotiation ninja, even throwing a gift Beezle's way. Post Beezle, the girls give Hiraku props, schooling him that the usual tax is a whopping 50 to 60%. Plus, making them come to collect is a genius move, forcing them to officially acknowledge their digs. And hey, being under the Demon Lord's wing? Not too shabby. Rue's buzzing about Beezle's gift, a cure-all potion that's good for sips or slaps on wounds. Back at Demon HQ, Beezle spills the beans to the other bigwigs, leaving them gobsmacked that Taiju Village got off so lightly, especially after downing a wyvern. Randon smells a rat, and Beezle admits feeling the pinch, especially with a vampire princess and an angel of doom eyeballing him, not to mention their elf army and hellhound pack. No choice but to play nice or make a powerful enemy. Unwrapping Hiraku's gift, they find some top-tier apples, wrapped in what's apparently demon spider silk. Gratz is shook, that's some legendary creature craftsmanship. Enter Dorame, dragon boss extraordinaire, dropping by the village with Gucci. Despite the distance, they're practically neighbors. Dorame's too big to fit inside, but a quick shapeshift later, he's human-sized and ready to party. After a night of feasting and boozing, Dorame's hooked on the village's vibe but gets a reality check from Gucci about his duties back home. Post-visits, Hiraku's brain is ticking on how to up their hospitality game. Plans for a guesthouse morph from a cozy four-bedder to a grand 30-person lodge. And for a warmer welcome, he switches up the game plan, angels to greet, not grab, and a bell for Zabuton to signal peace, not war. Enter Garf and his crew from Howling Village, looking to buddy up with Taiju. Rue takes the lead, ensuring all are friends unless proven otherwise. When some of Garf's gang are caught lurking, they're not given the VIP treatment but are still welcomed. The gang from Howling Village spills the beans over food and drink. They got wind of Taiju from the demon grapevine and are looking for stable trade partners outside their usual human circles. They're keen on an open market, but logistics are a headache. Hiraku suggests a wolf-drawn cart for transport, and they strike a deal, their crafts for Taiju's grub. Garf, feeling a bit sheepish, promises a gift next time, despite their humble means. Time flies, and Hiraku's itching to trade with Howling Village. The girls veto his road trip, so Tia takes the lead with a lizardman entourage, hitching a quick ride with Dorame in exchange for wine. Dorame becomes a regular, always bringing gifts, no complaints there. Tia returns with tales of their trading success and a dragon mourning his lost wine barrel. Promises of more booze cheer Dorame up. Tia drops another bomb. Howling Village wants to send folks to live in Taiju. Hiraku's game, but with a female-heavy population, he requests some young men too. The new arrivals from Howling Village, led by Senna, pledge their willingness to contribute. They're just looking for a place to call home. Hiraku's welcoming but notes the arrival of only 3 young men, pondering the village's future. Yet, he's optimistic, seeing potential for growth and harmony in Taiju Village. The Beast Men initially thought they'd get the short end of the stick in Taiju Village, but it turns out, life's pretty sweet there. Hiraku notices Senna wielding magic and figures everyone but him can do it. She tries to cheer him up, saying the Beast Men kids can't use magic yet and suggests they could learn together. Hiraku knows they'll eventually outclass him easily. One day, while picking apples, Hiraku hears a ruckus near the village and feels the ground shake. Gran Maria reports a brawling bear and a blood viper going at it in the northern forest. Hiraku wonders if bear meat's on the menu and asks Gran Maria for a lift to check out the monsters. At the scene, despite Gran Maria's suggestion to rethink their approach, Hiraku jumps in and takes down the monsters with a single strike each. The assassin angels are wowed by Hiraku's prowess, admitting they couldn't have handled those monsters so effortlessly. Later, Hiraku cooks up the bear with some wine, creating a stew that's a bit on the strong side, but the fried viper turns out to be a hit, tasting surprisingly like fried chicken. Curious about more culinary adventures, Hiraku asks Flora for an antibacterial agent for food preservation. She hands him a potent potion, then a milder one. Their miso production hits a snag, with Flora's attempts leading to explosive results. Hiraku suggests they give it another go. Next up, Hiraku whips up some mayo to accompany his fried viper, then moves on to miso making with Flora. They boil soybeans, mash them up, and mix in koji mold. After shaping the mixture and packing it into barrels, they let it sit for a few months. Ru then informs Hiraku about some visiting dwarves. The dwarves, led by Donovan, are here for the village's famed booze. They're broke but offer their tech and knowledge on alcohol production in exchange. Seeing a win-win, the village welcomes the dwarves as their new brewers. The village throws a welcome bash for the beastmen and dwarves, with Hiraku noting the arrival of more males, though Donovan isn't too keen on the younger ladies. When a dragon approaches, looking less than friendly, Hiraku gears up for a showdown. Doraemon steps in, and it turns out the new dragons are his family, suspecting him of infidelity due to his frequent visits and treasure pilfering. Misunderstandings are cleared, and Doraemon's wife and daughter apologize for their aggressive assumptions. Doraemon's family sees the village's unique strength and decides Lastismoon should stay to ensure this power never turns against them. Lastismoon's dragon strength proves too much for regular tasks, leaving Hiraku to find a suitable role for her. Eventually, she's sent on a diplomatic mission to Beazle, resulting in a fruitful exchange of produce. Beazle, intrigued and slightly alarmed by the presence of a dragon in Taiju village, sends his daughter Florim to spy. Florim's visit reveals the diverse and harmonious community under Hiraku's leadership. Surprised by Hiraku's command over such a varied group and his strength, she becomes concerned about her earlier rudeness towards him. As Florim tries to navigate her awkwardness around Hiraku, her friendship with Lastismoon blossoms, setting the stage for potential alliances or misunderstandings in the village's future. The slimes in Taiju village started multiplying and now came in various colors. No one really noticed until a purple slime chugged a barrel of booze, ticking off the girls. They decided to hold a trial and found it guilty, but Florim explained it's a slime and won't reflect on its actions, no matter the punishment. The girls got it and let it slide since it's just a slime. Over time, the red slime started joining them for feasts and drinking with everyone. Come fall, Hiraku and the gang are enjoying a hot pot and Hiraku mentions it'd taste even better with seafood. The girls are puzzled by what he means by seafood and Hiraku lists stuff like cod, crabs, or monkfish, along with some kombu seaweed. Ru tells Flora to start looking into those things. Tia is shocked that crabs can be eaten since they're so hard. Florim explains there's a port city called Shashado in the Demon Kingdom, and they can get there by heading south from this village. Lastismoon decides to fly there and Florim decides to tag along, knowing a merchant there. Lastismoon and Florim return 3 days later with Michael Goran, a merchant from Shashado City. After introducing himself to Hiraku, he shows the fish he brought and explains the kombu he asked for is usually tossed by their fishermen, but he had them collect it. Michael explains his visit has 3 goals: to properly greet Hiraku and thank him for requesting to do business with him, to suggest more opportunities for trade and business, and third, to become the official supplier for the government to the village. The girls explain he wants to be the guy handling all trade between the village and the outside world. They show him a list of products his company trades and go on to discuss the proposal more thoroughly. At night, before leaving, Michael wants to discuss booze next time, but Lastismoon yells at him that he can't have the booze. Scared, Michael backs down on the topic and leaves. Lastismoon takes him back to Shashado. Michael turns around to look at the village, and just thinking about it, he gets scared. 3 days earlier, one of Michael's men tells him there's a visitor wanting to talk to him. Since he's pretty busy, Michael wonders why they can't handle it, but the man explains they asked for him by name and brought goods from their farm, and he doesn't know what to do. Michael is surprised they brought goods, since it's not their rule, and suggests they refer them elsewhere. However, at that moment, his gut tells him not to ignore this and decides to meet them. Meeting them, Michael is surprised to see Florim from the Chrome family and is glad he didn't send her away, as he might have lost his head. He wonders who the other girl is, and hearing it's Lastismoon, he's shocked it's that crazy dragon. The girls hand over the goods and explain they want him to buy them, and in exchange, they want some things he must find for them. Checking the goods, He sees apples and realizes it's the fruit that entered the demon kingdom and everyone's talking about. Each could be sold for several silver pennies. Then he sees the other fruits and is shocked at the amount they brought him. He thought this would be quite risky, but realizing he'll make a lot of money, he gets quite happy as it outweighs the risk and claims he'll get them what they want. He tells his man to bring the best products from the market and wishes to go with the girls on their way back. The girls then explain they're heading towards Taiju village in the Forest of Death. Hearing that, Michael starts feeling uneasy. He's scared of everyone in Taiju village except for Hiraku. After the deal, he feels he'll get rich, but he's not sure his body can handle it. Later, Hiraku prepares a hot pot with seafood, and everyone loves it. Another dragon appears in the village. Hiraku wonders if it's related to Doraemon, but when the dragon attacks and mocks Hiraku, he gets serious and throws his spear, making it look like he missed, but then throws another and knocks down the dragon. The dragon transforms into a young woman and declares she surrenders. Doraemon appears and explains she's Hakurin, his older sister. Hakurin claims it's her fault since she said she was giving Lastisman as a bride and wants to marry her to the mayor someday. Doraemon tries to deny it, saying maybe he said it while drunk. Hakurin came to see what kind of man the mayor is and also heard he's quite strong, so she came to check. Doraemon claims it's not just that and she's mostly there because she's angry. Hakurin then confirms, saying Lastisman is 900 years younger than her. And still getting married before her. Hiraku doesn't mind her coming and testing, but since she made a mess, he makes her clean up. After dinner, Hakurin wants them to play mahjong, but wishes to bet something. Doraemon wonders what Hiraku can bet, but Hiraku explains he can't bet anything, so can only think of some punishment, like strip mahjong. Hakurin, Doraemon, and Lastisman agree to play, as they're quite competitive and don't like to lose. They start playing, but quickly, Hiraku finds himself in his last piece of clothing. Then he feels he has a chance but ends up losing and is forced to strip off his pants. Bizzle reveals they've also seen Hakurin in Hiraku's village. Glatz then grows even more worried they have enough power to take over the kingdom. Demon Lord Gargard shares his daughter has been in a bad mood lately and hasn't spoken to him all morning. Glatz then ignores the Demon Lord and claims they need to gather funds and prepare their military force, but sees Randon has run away again. Hakurin decides to stay in the village and is quite skilled at any job she takes on, though she complains about anything they ask her to do. Eventually, she becomes the children's teacher, teaching them to read, write, and do math. One day, Lamia girls led by Junia show up, bringing gifts and asking Hiraku to spare their lives. Since Hiraku has no idea what they're referring to, the Lamia girls explain the wolves and young spiders decided to clear a dungeon they found in the forest, forcing the Lamias out of their homes. Hiraku decides to trade the gems they mined and gives them some of his crops, and the Lamias return to their original homes. Hiraku would be happy if they continue trading and the Lamias agree. However, Hiraku asks them to wear some clothes when they come, as they're shirtless. The Lamias then create the Lamia delivery service and start transporting traded goods for the village. Some girls, Rosalind Greach, Roage Mamonrose, and Klakas Bugle, convince the Demon Kingdom's princess, Yuri, that Hiraku's village is up to something malicious and tries to use Frorum as a hostage. Yuri decides to defeat the village and save Frorum. Bizzle visits Frorum and informs her that Princess Yuri is planning a military campaign. It was Rosalind, Klakas, and Roage who convinced her to do it, targeting Hiraku's village. Frorum thinks the trio of girls is pretty dumb and wonders why they would attack the village given she had sent reports about how powerful it is. Bizzle explains that the reports were so outlandish they started to think they were fake. Bizzle believes if Frorum tries to stop them, they'll think she's a traitor. However, he asks her to think of something to stop them. Since the attack is tomorrow, Frorum figures they just need to show the village's power without mobilizing it. They pay the Lamia girls, led by Ginia, with 10 boxes of apples, and 3 Lamias face off against the 300 men heading towards the village, easily making them surrender. As a result, Rosalind, Klakas, and Roage are brought to the village, and Forum explains they want to join the village and work for it as if their lives depended on it. They'll work for Forum, but if they do anything to harm the village, Hiraku can get rid of them. Hiraku then wonders about the fourth girl, sitting on a throne, and Forum explains she's just there to observe for a while. As Hiraku leaves, Forum tells the girls that if they do honest work, their transgression will be forgotten. Also, they must hide their identities and Princess Yuri will be treated as a normal person. Forum then shows them the village. However, being nobles, the trio thinks they shouldn't live in the middle of nowhere and decide to escape. But when they try, they encounter hellhounds and spiders and change their minds. Fearing being discarded, the trio starts working and helps in Forum's work, becoming known as the Town Hall Girls. Seeing how nice and peaceful the village is, Yuri regrets wanting to bring war to it. Forum wonders why the Demon Lord didn't stop her, and Yuri explains she heard Forum was a hostage and was worried about her. Since the two are childhood friends, they agree that Forum will tell her everything and treat Yuri as a normal person. Later, Yuri helps in farm work, forcing the trio of girls to help her too. Time comes for Yuri and the girls to leave. However, the trio decides to stay, claiming they haven't yet repaid everyone's kindness. There's still work to be done, and more to learn about the village, though they actually enjoy the baths, food, and lack of political stress in the village. After Yuri returns home, Demon Lord Gargard complains to Bizzle that she seems more dignified and always busy with something. Bizzle claims it seems like Yuri is starting to take an interest in politics and diplomacy, and daughters grow up into adults before parents realize it. Hearing adult, Gargard assumes she must have met a man and wants to smash him. Bizzle warns him this attitude will make her hate him someday, which immediately calms Gargard. Hiraku's village begins the pre-winter crop harvest but ends up having more food than anticipated and doesn't even have where to store it. Lastisman suggests sending some to her father and Hiraku agrees. Hakurin then suggests sending to their parents too. She explains her father lives in the north, while her mother lives in the south. Tia realizes she's referring to the Emperor Dragon Dusu and the Hurricane Dragon Raymiran. Lastisman then heads to her father to drop off some crops and then to Shishido City to leave some there too. Michael Goran asked Lastisman to exterminate a monster attacking trade ships, and Lastisman gladly accepted, defeating the monster. Meanwhile, Hakurin headed north and, on her return, found some people wanting to move to the village. Their leader is Ya. Hiraku assumes they're dark elves, but Ya explains they're called mountain elves. Ya says they lived in the mountains, but lately, they've been having trouble finding food. Hiraku wonders what to do. Hearing that, Ya apologizes for causing trouble and understands they can't just help strangers and will leave. However, Hiraku explains that's not what he meant, and he was thinking about where to put them to sleep until they build a house. Accepting them into the village, Ya is happy and explains they're excellent hunters and will get their own food. They try to catch something, but the monsters are too strong for them. Hiraku tells them not to worry. Ya then sees he's doing something, and Hiraku explains he's trying to make pottery but fails, saying he really needs clay. Ya volunteers to find it, explaining he understands the earth and what's in it, and monsters won't be a problem as he can easily escape them. Ya manages to find clay and make pottery, making Hiraku happy. Later, Hiraku receives information that another dungeon was found, and according to what the girls want, sends an exploration team to investigate it. Meanwhile, Hiraku finally finishes the men's bath and uses it. Outside, Forum catches the trio of girls and forces them to tell the truth. They explain they hope to massage Hiraku's back and take the chance to get closer to him. Forum states the three are the lowest ranking members and can't climb their way to the top that way. Soon the exploration team returns and states they should send an extermination group there, as they confirm the presence of a blood viper inside. The elves insist they must have that meat, as the survival of their clan depends on it. Ya explains the blood viper meat is extremely valuable. Eating it fills your body with vitality and improves marital relations, and it's also said to bless you with children. Realizing why they want it, Hiraku tries to calm the girls and asks them to discuss it with the entire village. Winter arrives. Hiraku visits Rue as he's not feeling well. Explaining his symptoms, Senna wonders if he's been craving sour foods lately. Rue explains she's not hungry, but can still eat tomatoes and fruits. Senna then explains someone in her village said the same thing. Hiraku wonders what happened to that person, and Senna explains they congratulated her on the baby. Rue's pregnancy is going smoothly, but as a result, she can't transform. Since the maids insist on waking up before Hiraku, he starts waking up a bit later so they can also rest. With the village growing, breakfast is divided into 3 groups. Hiraku is in the first group, and while eating, Gran Maria informs him that 3 killer rabbits tried to infiltrate the farm, but Kuro and the other wolves took care of them. They note it's good the rabbits keep trying since they provide a steady supply of food. Hiraku notices that angels always act composed and proper, but when off duty, they go into lazy mode, relying on others to prepare food and wash their clothes. After eating, Hiraku starts his day, clearing pests from the garden with his all-powerful tool. Taking a lunch break, something not common there and which took some getting used to, Hiraku reflects on the elves, who usually skip breakfast and were initially nervous about eating in the morning, wondering if there was enough food supply. The beastmen, not used to eating every day, initially thought they were being treated well because they would be kicked out soon. After lunch, Hiraku continues working. While having more people generally helps with his work, when it comes to plowing new fields or planting new crops, Hiraku handles it alone, using the all-powerful tool. He plants some flowers, wanting to bring some color to the village. Beyond farm work, Hiraku uses the all-powerful tool to create various things that help the villagers, thanking God for this tool. Sometimes, Hiraku joins in military training. He doesn't think the village needs it, but the maids insist on it. Seeing them use training as exercise to stay fit, he decides to train a bit but is pretty bad with any weapon except the all-powerful tool. At dusk, Hiraku's workday ends, and he heads inside for dinner. The maids present a new dish, claiming they're 20% sure it tastes good. Hiraku tells them to only present dishes they're at least 50% confident about tasting good. However, the maids refuse, not wanting to waste food. Forum hands Hiraku a letter from Yuri, asking for more apples and a dress. Forum explains Yuri liked the clothes Zabuton made and wonders if Zabuton can make more for her. After resting a bit after dinner, Hiraku takes a bath, usually alone, although he was temporarily in the women's bath. After the bath, Hiraku feels restless as the elves start stalking him. Even in his room, he still feels watched and tricks them into revealing themselves. Afterward, he thanks God again for the good life he's been given and falls asleep. The dwarves are always working on making alcohol. Hiraku expected them to always be drunk, but they take their work seriously and don't drink while working. They also ask Hiraku to increase grape production threefold, and he agrees. Senna rushes in to inform Hiraku of a strange man. Hiraku checks and sees the man bowing before the wooden god statues he made. Hiraku wonders how he entered without Zabuton or the angels noticing. Rue recognizes him as the progenitor, Vargreif, who is glad to see her. Vargreif explains he couldn't believe she was pregnant, but it seems to be true. They usually continue their lineage through blood pacts, and pregnancies are rare, but he says children are a treasure and tells her to take care of it. Hiraku wonders who he is, and Rue says to think of him as her grandfather. Vargreif explains he's 4,000 years old and the secret to living long is erasing his memory now and then, except for important things like his name and clan. Vargreif apologizes for entering the village unannounced, explaining he initially intended to just look around and leave, but the statue under the tree caught his attention as it was a splendid likeness of the great creator. Hiraku wonders if he met God before, and Vargreif confirms he did when he was born, and God told him to do his best despite being born with a slightly abnormal body. Hiraku deduces the abnormal body means he's a vampire, and Vargreif supposes so. Vargreif explains he's been trying to remember what God looked like exactly, and it must be great to live with such a statue. Realizing he wants the statue, Hiraku explains he can't give it since it belongs to the village but will make him a new one. After making a new statue, Vargreif likes it. He wonders how much it would cost, but Hiraku refuses to accept money for something like that. Vargreif then says he'll have to think of what he can do for him in thanks. After leaving the village, Vargreif visits a large temple. The head priest is happy to see him and notes it's been 50 years since his last visit. Vargreif says he wants to consecrate a statue and asks for the best place. The priest explains it's the place of the creator god statue made by master sculptor Turuk. Vargreif then wants to move it to put the new statue there, and the priest agrees. Seeing the statue, the priest is impressed and says it must have been made by a famous sculptor, wondering about his name to honor him, but Vargreif says it's better they don't since Hiraku doesn't seem like the type to appreciate such things and also doesn't want to disturb his peaceful life. Vargreif says they'll support him discreetly and asks the priest to inform the other temples and for everyone to be respectful towards Taiju village. Vargreif sends Hiraku a magnificent piano. Hiraku doesn't want to accept it as payment, but Vargreif says it's a gift to celebrate Ru's pregnancy. Hiraku decides to put the piano in the dining hall. The 3 town hall girls notice it's a piano only found in large temples and used for grand ceremonies. They decide to play it, as it's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. However, they end up too scared to play it, fearing they might ruin or break it. The 3 ask Hiraku if he can get them a practice piano. Hiraku doesn't understand why they don't want to play the current one but has Michael go around get them a practice piano. Many of the girls like the piano and try to learn to play it. However, Hiraku has trouble sleeping since they also play the piano at night. Hiraku calls for a lunch break but ends up continuing to work until Ru calls him to stop and join them for lunch. He wonders if he should be moving around, but she explains it's okay and that she's been told she needs to exercise. All the girls are very caring towards Ru, however, she explains she's fine, but her issue is that she can't drink alcohol. The 3 killer angels make a request to Hiraku to sell all the alcohol. Hiraku then finds out the girls decided to give up alcohol for Ru, but the thought of not being able to drink is driving them crazy. Because of that, the angels believe that selling the alcohol could solve the temptation problem. Hiraku thinks they'll end up regretting selling the alcohol, as it's not something they can quickly produce again. He suggests an alternative, telling them to think about how alcohol's taste changes the longer it ages. Donovan and the other dwarves ask Hiraku if they've done something wrong, since nobody wants to drink alcohol. After Hiraku explains, Donovan is happy and says they don't need to reduce production but increase it. Hiraku agrees, noting he's sure everyone will drink more later to make up for lost time. Ru's pregnancy is going well, and the time to give birth is almost here. Everyone in the village starts giving her various gifts. That night, Ru feels it's time and later gives birth during the night. In the morning, Hiraku meets his son, Alfred, and holds him. A week has passed, and Hiraku reminisces about how everything started from living alone to now being a father. He's not sure if his son is half vampire since he looks human at the moment. Remembering that everyone gave them gifts, he decides to do something to thank them for their kindness. He gathers the girls and explains he wants to start a new system. He gives out reward medals, silver coins, and states they can exchange them for things they like. Tia realizes it's like money, and Hiraku confirms it, saying he thought the village would eventually need its own currency. So far, Hiraku has been taking all the goods and distributing them to everyone. If someone wanted something, they came and asked for it, but with the growing population, handling all transactions himself became impossible. They wonder if they can't continue bartering goods, but Hiraku gives an example where different people value certain goods differently, hence the need for currency. Since it will cause a stir if they suddenly switch to currency, Hiraku plans to start by giving out the coins as reward medals. Hiraku gives each person 3 coins, but since there are too many wolves and spiders, he gives each group 30 medals. Some people trade them immediately, while others like just having them and don't spend them. Hiraku begins receiving more custom orders for furniture and toys, feeling he's now working even more than before. Soon, they have a big feast to celebrate the birth of Hiraku's son, where finally everyone can drink again. Rue brings out a wooden hammer Donovan gifted her earlier, and the dwarves bring a large barrel, saying it's a new type of wine they made and claim they need to use the wooden hammer to open the barrel. Donovan wonders how the wine is, but Rue explains she can't drink yet since she's breastfeeding the child, but she's fine watching everyone else drink. Donovan suggests bottling some of it so they can drink it later. Hiraku likes the idea and states they can save it until Alfred is old enough to drink and share it with him. In the Demon Kingdom, Beazle tells them that in Hiraku's village, they had a baby. They finally realize they can't defeat the village and wonder how to maintain a good relationship with them. Glatz suggests marrying someone from the kingdom to someone from the village, but the Demon Lord misunderstands and thinks they want to marry Yuri, and he's against that. Tia, Hakurin, and Frorum tell Hiraku about some people who want to move there to escape a war. Learning the number exceeds 100, Hiraku believes they'll need another village to house so many people. Rue then suggests they do it. The girls agree, saying it means more people can move in, and suggest calling it the Great Tree Village. Hiraku states it will be a lot of work, but the girls are ready to give their best. Hiraku agrees, and they start planning where to begin. And thus concludes this charming series. If you enjoyed it, feel free to share in the comments. I'm also open to recommendations for similar series you might have. For now, I bid you farewell, but remember, you can always subscribe to my channel and join this wonderful community. See you next time, and until then.